What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about X-Men number 16 by Jerry Duggan and Joshua Cassara. We'll be discussing what kind of deal Forge has made with Mr. Sinister involving 3 names, and we'll also be talking about what Darwin's fate was after Jonathan Hickman's X-Men number 19 and who Forge found trapped in the vault that wasn't Darwin. More importantly, we'll also be talking about how Krakoa's resurrection protocols are about to be put to the ultimate test.
You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Okay, so when last we left off, Forge had ventured into the vault with a Krakoan hazmat suit of his own design that seems to have the DNA of other mutants, one of which was the mutant Caliban, and merging him into the Krakoan suit to allow him to detect X genes within the vault. This was Forge's way of being able to go into the vault by himself and also be able to figure out where Darwin is inside of what is otherwise a vast pocket dimension. Without Caliban's DNA and essentially his essence, because Caliban is actually in the suit itself. We see his face literally merged onto the chest of it, and it's something that I think led a lot of people to question the ethics of making something of this magnitude, something that is even called into question by Caliban himself, saying they have no memory of actually agreeing to be a part of this, with Forge kind of hand-waving it away in the previous issue. In this issue, we get what might be closer to a straight answer regarding that, but it also does seem to be steeped in some level of deception, because when Caliban asked Forge once again, did I give you my permission? I don't have any memory of this. We see Forge use one of my personal favorite narrative devices, the ellipses. His first reaction is just that, an ellipses, meaning he's thinking of what to say. He's trying to determine which thing to tell Caliban that would make the most sense to him without giving him the truth. And while the answer he gives Caliban is incredibly satisfactory to him, the fact that he would get to use his gift to do something great, whereas in the past his gift has been used for terrible things, chief among them to be a hound for Apocalypse and one of his 4 horsemen. So to hear this, Caliban is pleased and asks no further questions, leaving Forge to go along with his day. But we know that Forge is using other mutants' abilities without necessarily clearing them with the mutants in question. As we saw in the previous issue, he also has some of Mystique's DNA within that suit, allowing him to copy the images of other people. Something that he does point out he did not get clearance from Mystique to have. So the question becomes, what else can the suit do? Forge has hinted it has far more tricks, and at the beginning of this issue, while having a conversation with Mr. Sinister, Forge asked for something that involves 3 separate names. We're never told what those 3 names are, and my initial reaction was that maybe, just maybe, this has to do with the hazmat suit. And the only reason I'm even inclined to think that it might not is because the suit already seems to be completed in the background of the conversation. When Forge and Sinister are speaking with one another, we actually see the Krakoan hazmat suit right behind them, along with 2 other suits that are completely different, but the X that makes up Caliban on the suit is already there. So I kind of want to think that this might be something else, but it's the most obvious thing, and I always prefer to err on the side of Occam's razor, the solution that has the least amount of moving parts, or is the most simplistic solution, is usually the correct one, and that may very well be the case here. We see that suit in the background, maybe it does have to do with that. It is the most obvious thing, maybe it's not complete. And if that is the case, there are 3 names. We already have Caliban, we already have Mystique, then what would be the other one? Because one of the things Sinister brings up when he reads the list of the names, he says that one of them is going to be very difficult, and when Forge says it's the most important one, Sinister reminds him that it's going to be difficult to acquire this gift, and this is what kind of leads me back to believing it does have to do with the suit, because it has to do with acquiring mutant powers. And Sinister says that this power resides in the person's mind, making me wonder if it is some form of a telepath or reality warper. This could literally be any number of characters, and the only reason I'm thinking maybe this doesn't have to do with Project Black Box is because Sinister doesn't know about it. Project Black Box is something that Forge even told Cyclops himself that if you were on the Quiet Council, you would know what Project Black Box is. So that's something that's been approved, so it's gotta be something else. else. And I'm thinking it might be that krakoan hazmat suit because it was also something that Jean Grey pointed out as being incredibly problematic in the previous issue, so there you have it. But that last mutant, could it be somebody like Legion who has tons of different personalities within their own mind and could summon any one of those personalities at any one given time, or even multiple ones, as we have recently seen in Cy Spurrier's Legion of X? I even vaguely wondered if maybe it was the power of Onslaught, which technically isn't so much a mutant gift as it is the id of Charles Xavier. Whatever it is, he would have to have had a cradle to be able to access it, and those cradles are the very same ones that are the Cerebros that Charles wears on his head 24/7 nowadays. It could just as easily be Charles's telepathic gifts that Forge is after. Not only that, but Forge also seems to be working on something else that is incredibly important, and he's also being incredibly secretive with as well, and it seems to be what Sinister refers to as krakoan real estate, which at first kind of seems like just a throwaway joke, but it does seem like Forge is plotting something, like he's trying to figure out a way to create a greater and more expansive krakoan settlement beyond anything that they already currently have. And while the importance of this is a whole other story altogether, the main idea here is that Forge has tons of secrets that he is keeping, not just for the Quiet Council, but also from the Quiet Council. And as he states in this issue, he doesn't trust the Quiet Council, much less any other government or nation, with these secrets. As we've learned in the past, Forge's technology has been used not just against him, but other mutants as a whole. One of the most damning pieces of tech that he's ever created was the Mutant Power Nullifier, something that has plagued him ever since Uncanny X-Men number 184 in 1994. But the main takeaway from this is that while Forge is diving deeper and deeper into the vault using the various gifts that he has at his disposal thanks to the krakoan hazmat suit, the very person that he was looking for, he is locked onto their signature, Darwin, who was left behind in Jonathan Hickman's X-Men number 19 in 2021. Darwin was basically sacrificed to the children of the vault, not so much directly. Synch and Wolverine wanted to save him, but were unable to do so, and the children of the vault were about to kill them, and they knew that the mission was more important than anything else, even though the children had actually captured Darwin and were harnessing his power and pushing him to his uppermost limit to see exactly what it is he could take before he actually broke. Wolverine and Synch thought it best to just escape and leave without him, so that way at least somebody could get out of the vault and warn Krakoa about what was happening in the vault. That was the whole point of the mission that started back in Jonathan Hickman's X-Men number 5. And as we discover in this issue, while Forge believes he's found Darwin, that's actually not the case. Caliban felt a signature that he believed to be Darwin, but it's actually Wolverine. In Jonathan Hickman's X-Men number 19, Synch and Wolverine tried to escape the vault together, but Wolverine, recognizing that only one of them was going to get out alive, at the very least far enough to try and get a signal to Xavier to back everything up so that none of the information that they had collected over 500 years of living in the vault would go to waste. It was largely assumed that the children of the vault had killed Wolverine, but one of the things that I always thought was odd is that Wolverine is incredibly difficult to kill, whether it's Logan or Laura Kinney, but it did seem like, oh, maybe they did just kill her. And as we discover here, they actually killed Darwin instead. They kept Wolverine alive in some form of a stasis pod. And while Darwin is missing, it is largely believed by Forge that Darwin was destroyed, that they actually reached the uppermost limit of his capabilities and figured out a way to harness his powers and pushed him so hard they actually found a way to kill the unkillable mutant. And now that they potentially have the power to kill even an unkillable mutant, they could use this power and adapt it in ways to not only just wipe out every other mutant on the planet, but also figure out ways to merge his X gene into theirs and make them just as unkillable as Darwin. That's the big concern with the fact that Darwin is missing. And now that they have certifiable evidence that Darwin is very likely dead, he can actually be resurrected and brought back into the fold. But now that I bring that up, that is a core tenet of the resurrection protocols. No mutant is allowed to be resurrected without confirmation of them being dead. We actually talked about this in the previous video for X-Men number 15 very briefly, that yeah, you can't bring a mutant back without having proof that mutant is gone. That way, there's not a bunch of clones running around on the island. But now we've run into that very same predicament. Because right now, we have a Lara Kinney laying before Forge who has been brought back to Krakoa. It is confirmed that he took her out of the vault and returned her back to the island. And this is the original Lara Kinney, X-23, Wolverine, whatever you want to call her. It's the original one, not a resurrected clone. This means that this is the very same Lara who not only was 500 years old by the time that her and Saint made their attempt to escape from the vault, but she's been stuck there since then, meaning that if Darwin would have been roughly around 1,000 or more years old by the time that they finally got back in to get him, it means that she is very likely the same. She has been through probably some of the most harrowing experiences that any mutant has ever been through, other than maybe, say, Darwin, and now she's back. What are we gonna do with her? More importantly, what are they gonna do with the other Lara Kinney? She is a resurrected version of that one who doesn't have the same memories or experiences that this original Lara Kinney had. That was one of the core storylines that was left dangling at the end of Jonathan Hickman's run going into Jerry Duggan's, was that, well, what are we gonna do about Sink and Lara Kinney? They were in a relationship for hundreds of years in the vault. They were in love with one another. Sink got out, Lara didn't, and now he has to look at another Lara Kinney, one who has been resurrected, who he has been in love with for hundreds of years, who has no clue how to even deal with knowing that kind of information. Because she's not the same Lara Kinney. It's been made explicitly clear she is not the same Wolverine. And now it stands to reason she could be destroyed. What is going to happen to her? What is Krakoa going to do to this Wolverine who has been making herself, for all intents and purposes, a valuable member of Krakoan society now that the original version of her is back? We have largely been pretty clear of the whole clone saga shenanigans since House of X began, with the only real major exception being Mr. Sinister, and he's largely been keeping his clones to himself. Most people don't even know he has clones, except for the most privileged of people within the Quiet Council. And even then, some of them don't even really truly fully know what's going on. So yeah, a lot of questions have now been opened up. What are they gonna do with both of these Laras? Are they gonna keep the original Lara Kinney and make the other one go kick rocks? Are they gonna get rid of the other Lara Kinney? Are they going to try and let them coexist on the island together? Are they gonna try and find some way to, I don't know, merge them together? I don't really know how you're going to do that. And more importantly, how is this all going to affect Sink? Because he just recently got dumped by Lara Kinney. I mean, they technically weren't even really dating again since he came back. They were just kind of feeling things out. But by the time we got to this year's Hellfire Gala event, it was very clear that Sink and Wolverine were no longer going to be an item. And now, with everything that's been going on, he actually has a chance to get her back. So there's tons of story stuff that is on the horizon for both Sink and Wolverine, and Jerry Duggan kept his promise. He said that we're gonna address these things, and while it did seem like it was kind of a bullshit answer to just get people off his back, he's a man of his word. He stood by it. He is addressing it, and maybe this is his way of letting us know that we will be getting Wolver-Sink back, or Sinkerine, or whatever you want to call it. Now, the other thing to address in this, and this one we can sum up pretty quickly because I've done a whole video thread about what's been going on with Havok over on the Hellion side of things. We see that Havok is dealing with some baggage in this issue, and it's actually one of the major plot points, or rather side stories of this issue, is that Havok, his hot head, has still yet to go away. He is still reeling from everything that happened to him in Axis. His mind is still incredibly fractured despite getting help from other mutants like Emma Frost and Danny Moonstar. He's still struggling because at the end of it all, the guy's been through a lot. Let's just be real with it. The guy went from being inverted into a more evil version of himself and finally getting his mind cleared up where he can somewhat go back to normal, almost killing several humans in Hellions. Number one, he was losing his whole entire mind, and being placed on the Hellions was the best way to keep him from harming anyone else, at least not in a way that would break any Krakoan laws, and he didn't want to be there. He felt he was better than being on a team of supervillains, and really only towards the end finally accepting his place there, or at the very least recognizing that he was among friends. And even that was still kind of debatable. It was only like in the vaguest of terms, wound up reuniting with Madeline Pryor, who he terribly missed, and her only wanting to break him even more than she already had back during the events of the original Inferno story arc, and eventually going from her being killed right before his very eyes to being told she couldn't be resurrected, to then many issues later being told that she could be resurrected, and he gets her back, only she doesn't really even want to be with him. He also destroyed Psylocke's one chance at getting her daughter back, and when he realized it, that broke him even more, and the guy's just in a really bad place. And now that he's learning that he was just an afterthought, a joke that Forge pushed for him to be nominated to become one of the X-Men, it wasn't because the people wanted him, but because Forge pulled his weight to get him on the team just to mess with Cyclops. Because he knew that Cyclops would probably spend more of his time babysitting Havok and trying to keep him out of trouble, as opposed to Cyclops worrying about what Forge is doing. And honestly, Havok's behavior leads to one of the Children of the Vault, Pero, getting free from his simulation matrix pod and almost getting away 100%. Pero by himself is more than enough to solo almost the entirety of this current X-Men squad. He's that strong. For a guy who looks a lot like Beast, he's a lot stronger than Beast. It's even hinted at here that he's probably more powerful than Thing or even Colossus. But anyways, I love the fact that the X-Men are finally getting around to trying to clue in everyone else about what's going on with the Children of the Vault. We saw in this issue that Forge is actually feeling like maybe we should tell the Fantastic Four and the Avengers about everything that's happening with the Vault, so that way when the shit hits the fan, which it is inevitably going to hit the fan, they'll be prepared for it, because the post-Children, as it was revealed in X-Men number 15, aren't just a mutant problem anymore. They are a human problem, because in that simulation, we've already gotten a taste of what it is they're gonna do next. Once they take out mutant kind, they are going to go after humanity. They are going to go after the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the Midnight Suns, the entirety of the Mystic Arts community, even the Asgardians. Anyone who they feel is in their way or isn't like them, they're going to destroy. So it's high time they clue everybody else in on what other potential threats are out there that could lead to the destruction of the entirety of humanity, and that could very well be the Children of the Vault. But anyways, if you want to know more about what was going on with Jonathan Hickman's X-Men series, check out this playlist up here. And if you want to know more about the Mutant Sync, check out this video down here. In the meantime, let me know what you thought about X-Men number 16. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.